Hi, grade 9s. In this video, we are going to be talking about measures of central tendency. So measures of central tendency are things that you should hopefully have talked about in elementary school. They include mean, median, and mode. So the first question here says, the following data shows students' grades on a unit test. So we have students 1 to 7, and we have their grade as a percent on their test. So anytime I'm trying to calculate mean, median, mode, maximum, minimum, or range, the very first thing that I always do is arrange my numbers from highest to lowest, because it actually helps me find some of the values that we're going to be asked to locate. So I like to look at the numbers, try to find my lowest, which I believe is 32, and I'm going to start by writing 32. I like to check them off as I go so that I don't miss any. All right, the next lowest would be 68, and then 75, and then I notice there's another 75. Then we've got 80. Then there's another 80 and 83. I always try to just do a quick count and make sure that all of my numbers are there. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like to just do a quick check and make sure I didn't miss any numbers. Okay, now that it's written from lowest to highest, we're going to try answering some of the questions. So the first part says, state the minimum value. And over on the side, we have a little glossary to help us out. It says the minimum is the lowest number in a data set, so the smallest number. So if I'm looking at my list of numbers, which I've already written from lowest to highest, I can see that the smallest number is 32. So my minimum value is 32. Now it's not just 32, it's a test grade as a percent. So it's actually 32%. So I'm going to put a percent sign on there. Now there was a little problem here. The D that's here is supposed to go next to this part. Sorry about that. So part C says state the maximum value. If I go look at my glossary, maximum, it says, is the highest number in the data set. So we're looking for the largest number, which, because we've sorted from high to low, is very easy to find. It's just 83, and that is 83%. Part D says calculate the range. So if I take a look at the side, it says the range is the difference between the maximum and the minimum. And then there's an equation that says the range equals maximum minus minimum. So we take our largest number and we subtract the smallest number. So to calculate my range, I'm going to take my largest number, which is 83, and subtract my smallest number, which is 32. And then underneath that, I'm going to write that that equals, let's calculate, 83, take away 32, which is 51%. So the range looks at how far apart were the grades between the highest student and the lowest student. So if this number is really small, that tells me that the majority of students did equally as well on the test. But if I see a big number here, I know as a teacher that I have some very strong students and some weaker students, right? That there's more of a spread in between the numbers. All right, part E says state the mode. So over here on the side, I've got some notes. It says the mode is the most frequent number in the data set. It also says that it is possible to have more than one mode, And if all the numbers appear the same number of times, there is no mode. So we are looking to see if there's a number that shows up more often than all of the other numbers, because if they show up the same number of times, then there's no mode. So if I take a look, I see that 32 shows up once, 68 shows up once, 75 shows up twice, 80 also shows up twice, and then 83 only shows up once. So I do notice that 75 and 80 are repeated values, and they've both been repeated twice. So because they've shown up the same number of times, I have two modes. We have 75, which showed up 2 times, and 80, which showed up 2 times. So our mode is both 75% and 80%. So it is possible to have more than one mode, right? So if you have 2 numbers that are showing up more than once, right, and they show up the same number of times, they both showed up twice here, then that is going to be our mode. We'll have 2 modes. Sometimes you can have 3 modes. Okay, these ones are usually pretty easy to do. They don't require a lot of calculation. I can look at the numbers once they're in order and pick some of these things out. The last 2, median and mean, involve a little bit of calculating, right, in order to be able to find them. So median is, if I look at the side, the number in the middle of the data set. So it's our number in the middle. That's what a median is. So I want to try to see if I can find the number in the middle of my data set. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. So one way is to just count our way in from the outside. So we want to try when they're in order, right, to work our way in. So I'm going to start with the 2 outside numbers. I'm going to come in once and then twice. And then that 3rd time brings me to that middle number of 75. So I can see that the number 75 is in the middle. There are 1, 2, 3 numbers on the left and 1, 2, 3 numbers on the right. Right? That's option number 1. We just count our way into the middle. Okay, option number 2, you can take the number of terms. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 terms or numbers. So I'm going to take 7 and we're going to divide that in half. So we're going to divide that by 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So when I'm doing the median, I don't worry about the 0.5. I just worry about the 3. And what I'm going to do, and this works really well if I have a long list of numbers, I'm going to start at one end and I'm going to count in 1, 2, 3 spots. And then on the other side, we're going to count in 1, 2, 3 spots. And then the number in the middle is my median. Okay, so either way, whether I just count in with my fingers or whether I divide the number of terms in half and then count my way in, right, I still got a median of 75%. Okay, I think I'm going to stop the video here and then I will see you in the next part to talk about the mean.